We'll go ahead and get started. Thank you for joining today. My name is Lee Kilgore. I'm the president of Super Neighborhood 14, which is a combination of Timber Grove, Lazy Brook, Hidden Lake Townhomes, and Brook Hollow across 610 at 34. Tonight we've got two people that are going to be speaking. Jack Valinsk is our community liaison for the Department of Neighborhoods. He's going to talk a little bit about the Civic Association registration form, and I've also asked him to tell us about grants for improvements to neighborhoods. And then Miss Johana is the Senior Assistant Director of Transportation and Drainage Operations, and she's going to talk to us about what her department does. And then we have a few photos for drainage flooding that happened during the September 22nd storm, Tropical Storm Beta. And so we want to talk about that and then just discuss what our next steps are going to be. So first thing I'd like to do is just let you know about the minutes. Those could be found on the SNC14 website. And with that, we'll go ahead and get started with Jack.
Okay. One of the problems we have in the city of Houston is that we don't know all the civic clubs. We know the super neighborhoods mostly. We know the people who are part of the super neighborhoods, but the civic clubs, because they're registered in the state, and the state does not keep a database of that, we don't have that. And the reason why we want to know about the civic clubs is sometimes we need to connect with you, whether it's public works because you're going to do a project, or planning because you're going to build a building or something like that. So what we have done working with the IT department is put everything under houstontx.gov/our neighborhoods. So under that page there is where all the listings of the super neighborhoods are, the information about the alliance with minutes, and now we're adding the information about, we will be adding the information about the civic clubs. But before we can post all that information about the civic clubs, we need to have the information. So there is a menu item there on that page to register your civic club. We're also going to try to develop, working with the GIS department, the people who do all electronic maps, of being able to map out the civic clubs. That's going to take some time because not all civic clubs are perfectly squared. They've got all different types of thing. And some civic clubs can actually overlap, with other civic clubs. There is no, that's something we have no control of. So we're asking you if you can fill out that form, and then we will be able to get you information. To be honest with you, I forgot about the grants, and I'm trying to look it up right now. It's the community development grants. I think the deadline's getting close here. It's probably under our department. I'm in the Department of Neighborhoods, and let me see if it's right there on top. Our website in the city is actually pretty good. It is somewhat complicated because we got so many things going on in the city that it's hard sometimes for people to find it. But we have a search feature right at the beginning. And I'm looking about the grants, and it was up here, neighborhood matching grants. See how quickly I was able to find it? It is, the application is there right on the front page of the Department of Neighborhoods. So let me go back there, and when you go to the main website, under government, the first thing there is about the mayor, the city controller, the council, and then the departments. So once you go to the Department of Neighborhoods, it's on our front page. It's towards the bottom there, and it is neighborhood matching grants. And there's the PDF of how to apply for it. I believe you got to be a 501c3 or 4, probably more likely 4 than a 3. And the deadline is November 6th. And it's the way to match, if you have some money to be able to do some smaller projects. I mean, the city is tight for money. Let's be honest. It's hard to get the speed cushions done. They cost about $6,000 a piece. Each district council member has some funds, but it's been cut back, and they have more needs than the money they have. But this application will help you in your neighborhood if you are interested in trying to do something in that order.
Thank you. And what I was thinking is, so on the call tonight, we've got Kirk Swafford, who is you're with Lazy Brook, and Miles Sesser is with TMCC. So I was thinking what we might be able to do is combine forces. TMNA, Timber Grove Manor Neighborhood Association, is an association, not a civic club. Therefore, we don't have the 501c3. However, TMCC does, and I'm not sure about Lazy Brook, but I think that we can combine forces in terms of that grant to submit a request for improvements in the neighborhoods. And so I'll work with you, Jack, offline on that to see what we can work out. Does anybody have questions for Jack tonight? Okay.
I'm sorry, this is Pete Davies. Just a real quick question to Jack is, so Jack, what is a good example of some of the grants that we've done in the past, and what are some of the examples?
I know speed bumps were one of them. I know there's some other minor things like sidewalks, I believe. We come up with different things, and there's different criteria of every time the cycle goes through. So sidewalks are a possibility. Of course, a lot of the stuff is expensive to do.
Good question, Pete. Thank you. We will go ahead and move to Miss Clark. Again, she is our, when Jack Weatherford, well, maybe you could explain that. I was just gonna let everybody know, Miss Clark, about the difference between when Jack Weatherford, as the Deputy Director of Public Works over Transportation and Drainage, he retired earlier this year, and then we were given the names of both you and Walter Hambrick. And so there's a separation and a delineation of the roles and functions that y'all do. And so I wanted to be able to explain that as well. So we'll turn it over to you. Thank you.
Well, thank you, Mel Kilgore. First of all, thank you everybody for having me tonight. It's an honor to join your meeting. Yeah, we were with Walter very close. We're under the same umbrella in Houston Public Works, and we coordinate daily. We're just a few steps away from each other office-wise, and please be always count on any of us to help on whatever we can. So I have some slides with you that I want to present, show you what our department and particularly what transportation and drainage does, and give you some guidance of how the community can be more involved, and give you some ideas about drainage initiatives that we have in place for Super Neighborhood 14. So let me go ahead and share my screen. Let me be sure it works fine. I think you need to enable me to be able to share it. It says the host disable the participant screen sharing, Ms. Kilgore. Of course. Something on your side you need to do.
How about if I just share, can you see that? No.
There you go.
Yeah, there it is. Yeah, you want to handle the slides, and I'll tell you go to the next one.
No, I don't.
I know, it's a challenge every day for all of us to try to figure it out. There you go.
I found the button. All right.
Okay, let's go back to the first one then.
This one?
Yeah, that's fine.
Okay.
So again, thank you for the introduction. My name is Johana Clark. I've been with the City of Houston for over 16 years, many of those working on traffic operations. I managed for a very long time the signal engineering team, and now we're very, very involved into drainage operations. I'm managing right now the branch that actually maintains all our stormwater infrastructure. So that's me. Okay, let's go to the next slide. Wanted to share always with you, these are the first, the big 5 values that we work very hard on Houston Public Works to move forward. And we talk about integrity, teamwork, ownership, communication, and respect. And sharing with you, there's a big transformation going on Houston Public Works, trying to change the culture and the perception that we have, and absolutely working harder on getting better customer service to serve our communities. Next. So sharing with you in Houston Public Works, we have 5 big service lines, what they were used to call divisions before. Now we call them service lines. Capital projects, customer account services, Houston Permitting Center, Houston Water, and the one where I belong to and want to talk to you about tonight is transportation and drainage operations. Next one. So this is a really nice schematic we wanted to share with you because it really illustrates what our group does, what we are, Houston Public Works is responsible for, which is maintaining this infrastructure you're seeing here. Stormwater and drainage, wastewater lines, water lines, traffic signals, street signs, manholes, streets and markings, building permits, fire hydrants. So a lot of these are, of course, interrelated, and our groups coordinate very, very closely to be sure that we're servicing you well with all of these. Mr. Walter Hambrick, he's over the branch that actually takes care of what is the pavement conditions that actually we're not pointing out on this street, but on this image, but that's absolutely part of our responsibility too. And I'm currently overseeing the drainage portion. Next. Next one. So I want to just mention to you some of the areas within transportation and drainage. We have various sections and very qualified personnel that takes care of these. So in stormwater, again, the branch that I currently manage, we do have a very, very strict schedule throughout the year where we inspect storm sewer lines, inlets, manholes, everything that has to do with that enclosed underground system. Also, we do inspections on open ditches. So we're talking about the roadside ditches and also off-road ditches that we operate, some of them in very, very close coordination with Harris County Flood Control District. Our street and bridge group managed by Mr. Hambrick, he actually also does inspection, maintenance, repairs, and rehabilitation of the street surfaces and bridges. His group oversees what is the potholes and skin patches and overlays. Traffic operations, a group that is very close to my heart because I worked with them for over 13 years. They are responsible for the operation and maintenance of signals, signs, markings, and all other traffic control devices. They perform traffic studies, conduct safety programs, and doing general traffic management. They're very, very involved and coordinating closely with planning on our bike plan and on the implementation of all the walkability concepts that we have in the city right now. Next.
Who's over traffic operations then? If you're stormwater and Walters Street and Bridge.
Yeah, we do have a new assistant director. We recruited him a few months ago. His name is Fabio Capillo, C-A-P-I-L-L-O. So he's overseeing that group and we were very close to him. So like I said at the beginning, if any problem you have contacting any of us, please feel free to reach out. We'll coordinate closely.
Okay, perfect. Thank you.
Next one. So we also have a group that we created a couple of years ago, has been very valuable. It's our infrastructure planning team. And these are mainly planners and engineers that are dedicated to see the full picture. They help us do analysis, planning of improvements and future infrastructure. Kind of they get out of the daily operations that we manage on the other sections. And they help us again plan and schedule, identify funding for large projects. So it's a very interesting group that you'll hear about very, very often next few months. And our other group is Rapid Delivery. This is a group that is mainly integrates project managers, inspectors, and they are delivering what we call work order type projects. Those are small to mid scale, such as sidewalks, traffic signal reconstructions, intersection safety improvements, changes on medians, lane adjustments, those type of things. So, so that's what our rapid delivery does. They try to deliver their projects just within a couple of months, instead of versus what capital projects does, which is CIPs that are typically larger scale projects that take many times years to be completed. So, next one. So I wanted to list for you some of the assets that we specifically take care under our maintenance groups to give you some guidelines of when you have issues with any of these, where does it go, who takes care of it. So the traffic group that I was mentioning before, again, they oversee traffic signals, school zone flashers, traffic signs, freeway lighting is an interesting concept. We do have an agreement with the Texas Department of Transportation, and we actually, our team maintains all the high mast lighting that you see along the freeways within the city of Houston limits. So it's huge, it's about 180,000 lighting features that our staff maintains. And it's something very interesting. We're coordinated with TxDOT because all of those are being slowly being updated to LED lighting. So that's gonna give us a lot of energy savings and lower maintenance needs. So that's something that traffic takes care of too. Also, we are responsible for the under bridge lighting, any overpass within City of Houston limit. You see all those lights that are along the outside lanes. Those are the lights that we maintain. And also pavement markings, a very challenging area. It demands a lot of resources with over 640 plus square miles in Houston. It's a very challenging group, but we do very well. We combine inside crews type of work with also contracts. So challenging, but the work is getting done. Next one, please. Now on the management side is a complement to the maintenance group. They are more dedicated to what is doing engineering studies. Let's say if somebody has a request for a new traffic signal. Just as an example, this is the group that actually conducts the analysis, traffic count, the safety analysis. So they're more into that planning management area of work. They do have many projects related with traffic safety. They have teams also on equipment to collect data and collect traffic counts. They also determine and work very close with the school districts in Houston, so we can adjust or approve or reject, depends what the case is, new school zones. And they coordinate again with the districts on the times and the schedule. So these are our mainly coordination teams. And they also oversee what is speed cushions as part of the neighborhood traffic calming program, and I'll talk a little bit more about it ahead. And they also oversee what is roadway safety, quiet zones, and the pavement marking design. Again, I was giving you an example about bike lanes. It has been very interesting and a good learning curve to see how these new different pavement markings that you're seeing on bike lanes are being applied, not just citywide, but nationwide. And this group is very, very diligent and very enthusiastic about those new practices. Next one. So this is my branch, stormwater. Like I was mentioning, we do all the maintenance for roadside and off-road ditches. Also, we maintain the storm sewers. What is this? The lines, inlets, manholes, all the type of devices that are interconnected with them. Also, this includes those flood warning stations that we have on multiple locations with pump stations. That's part of our responsibility, as well as some of the detention ponds that the city has as part of drainage systems. We do have a very, very robust engineering and management team, because the coordination, as you can imagine, that we have to do with other agencies is very, very intense. We're working hand by hand with Harris County Flood Control. There are many projects that we are continuously coordinating. Just to explain you a little bit, a city drainage system typically is going to discharge to a larger system, in this case what is managed by the Harris County Flood Control. So it's a must that we coordinate every project together, and we have a very good relationship with them. Also, I wanted to share with you these two programs that we have. Some of you might be aware of those. The first one is called SWAT, that stands for the Stormwater Action Team. This was a program that Mayor Turner initiated back in 2017, I believe. And it's a program that has funding dedicated to do rehabilitation on existing drainage systems. So it's very different from a whole reconstruction type of project. What we do is we bring back to the current standards and we extend the life of our drainage assets through those. Those SWAT plans projects are actually initiated by the council districts. So we hold various meetings with them where they communicate to us the community concerns on drainage on their areas, on their districts. And we do some type of screening and evaluation, and we finally give them a recommendation. These are the projects that are top priority based on the damages that we're seeing, the needs to rehabilitate that infrastructure that is already present, and they have the final word on deciding which ones go through. This program has currently a funding of $20 million that are evenly split between the 11 districts. So it's about $1.9 million that every district receives every year. This is one of those programs that I encourage you, as drainage concerns come up, to always be in communication with the district, because we meet again very, very often with them at the beginning of each fiscal year to determine what projects we're going to move forward with.
Have you already determined the projects for this fiscal year? I think the year started, was it January 1 or August 1?
July 1st. So
July 1st.
the city's fiscal year starts July 1st. And we start conversations with them months before that, before May, about the next round of projects. Most of the districts have actually a backlog of projects that have been telling us throughout the year. But we recommend it. We, from a very objective, of course, cost is a primary factor, but our recommendations are mainly engineering based. On what needs to be done and which programs are really feasible or areas that demand rehabilitation. So that's a very interesting concept that we'll need to, it's important to understand, because one thing is to do maintenance, repairs, that's more a daily operations to keep the asset functional. When we move to the next step, that is rehabilitation, that's when these projects come in. When we have, let's say, roadside ditches are completely silted, they're absolutely not providing the capacity we need to carry all this water, or storm sewer lines that are undersized. That's when rehabilitation is very helpful. Now, when we have larger areas where the system is not existing, is not complete, that's when we move to a CIP, where it's a more reconstruction type of project to address the issues. But yeah, now, of course, if there is any input from the community or candidates that you'll think or you want us to look at under this type of SWAT projects, anytime during the year, please feel free to communicate with your district, because we try to determine what projects go on around July. So we have the entire 12 months to finish them, design, and at least initiate construction during that period. But anytime during the year, just nominations are welcome. And by half of the year, towards January, February, we start doing a screening on what could be a good project for the following year.
Okay, very good. Thank you.
The second program I wanted to share with you is the local drainage project, what we refer as LDP. This is funding that we have allocated separately to help our maintenance crews. So our maintenance crews are, they do have the equipment, we do have the manpower to conduct inspections, to do the basic primary maintenance of the existing assets. However, when we get to the point that the resources that we have are not sufficient to address, let's say, miles of roadside dish desilting or relocation of inlets. Some things are a little more major than the everyday repair. That's when we step in, and our own maintenance crews contact my office to us. We need the support of an LDP here, and we evaluate and we assign some of those funds that we have available to do that extra step to take care of that. Those are not council district driven. Doesn't mean they're not aware of what we have planned, but they're different from the SWAT mechanism. Those are things that can communicate directly, most of them, 3-on-1 service requests that have gone through maintenance multiple times. And it gets to the point that maintenance raise their hands, look, we have done as far as we can. There's really nothing else we can do. That's when we step in with this type of project and see if there is something that we can do, again, to get some more feasible solutions. Next one. And this is just an image showing you what our rapid delivery branch does. I was telling you, they take care of things like sidewalks, signal reconstruction, and they are the ones that actually coordinate the council district service fund projects, CDSF. So those are funds that are each council district has available, and those are actually designated exclusively for transportation related projects. Those cannot be allocated for drainage. So that's a question that we get very often. Now, if drainage happens to be a component of the project, then absolutely. But these CDSF funds cannot be used exclusively to solve a drainage issue. But they can be used for sidewalks, for pavement markings, for pavement rehabilitation, those type of things that are specifically related to solve a transportation problem. Interagency projects too. This office, this branch is the one that coordinates with Metro, with Harris County, with the TERS, when they have those external agency projects, because we have to, anything that is constructed or modified within the city of Houston right away, transportation and drainage has to evaluate and be sure that everything is gonna work, again, transportation and drainage wise. So this office helps us coordinate those efforts. Next one. This is Walter's branch, the street and bridge maintenance branch. So they're looking, they have crews that take care of potholes, skin patches, they do some panel replacement, they replace speed cushions, and they also have a team that does all the bridge inspections, maintenance. They have some of the mowing crews that take care of vegetation management. Snow and ice operations, although we know we don't have that often in Houston. You have seen the last few years we have had some ice events. So his team is critical to do the preparations where we know that we're gonna have icy roads, to be able to prepare again the surfaces and provide some safety level that is acceptable for all drivers. And asset management, of course, it's a huge undertaking to have the inventory of all the city streets and also their condition. So they have an ongoing condition assessment throughout the year to be sure that we have updated data for our streets. Next one. Houston TransStar, I think most of you have heard of this organization. We always have the perception, or many people has the perception that it's a separate entity. It's really not. It's a consortium between various agencies. So over there we have Harris County, Metro, City of Houston, of course, and which one I'm missing? TxDOT Department of Transportation. So I say when I was in traffic, I was used to be housed on their building on Old Katy Road. The building is actually the TransStar phase, but these agencies have very close coordination, especially during emergency management. And we do house there our traffic engineering team, the one that is in charge of all the traffic signal operations, retiming, that are housed at that same facility. Next. So I wanted to share with you some of the questions that we get very often on community meetings and other type of events. See if maybe this could help. If that happen to be some of your questions. Of course, we're welcome to any others after I go through the slides. When we have pothole, ditches, traffic signs, signals that need repair, what do we do? Not everybody is aware that the City of Houston has a helpline, which is our 311 line, and the request can be entered in the system various ways, through the website, just dialing 311 on your phone. There is also a 311 app. So I was gonna talk a little more ahead, but since we're on the topic, this is very, very important because Houston Public Works has over 4,000 employees. This group that I'm telling you is huge, but we still have so many different areas because we wanna concentrate expertise and especially on the different infrastructure types. So it's important that when you call, this data gets logged, that you provide us all the details that you can, and that way we can be accountable for what the work that needs to be done. Many people also ask about traffic calming devices, particularly speed cushions. I was mentioning to you, there is Houston Public Works has a program called Neighborhood Traffic Management Program that can be seen if you go to the link publicworks.houstontx.gov under programs. It's right there and it has a lot of good material. The program unfortunately has not been funded properly throughout the years, but it exists and yeah, I know.
Sorry. No funding. It went to the city council, so yeah, not happening.
I understand. However, we take it seriously because sometimes I share with you, sometimes we get requests that go through the program, but we may be able to look at it and approach it from a different perspective. You know, so many times traffic calming is the perception. We need to control the speed. People is shortcutting through my neighborhood. There might be other things that we can do. We have been successful in other cases. Issues that might have to do with a malfunction on a traffic signal that is forcing drivers for some reason to cut through a neighborhood, or maybe some access management where we can make some modifications that don't necessarily require speed cushions. So don't be discouraged for the low funding part. This can be a good mechanism to report concerns that you have on your neighborhood. And about mowing, some of our constituents ask us about who is responsible for mowing what, and per ordinance, adjacent property owners are responsible for mowing from the property line to the street. We do have funding though to mow off-road ditches, so ditches that are not running parallel to the properties, and some of the right-of-way, including esplanades and vegetation on the side of the road once a year. I know it's a little sad because it's not enough, especially with our weather, but it's something that we're trying to go around, but our funding, unfortunately, that's what really permit us to do on our large city. Parks and Recreation also, they maintain some esplanades and some medians too. So we between the two departments, we address most of this. Sidewalks, I just want to elaborate more because that's one of the questions we get to. Typically for the current ordinance, Houston Code of Ordinance, the city does not make repairs to damaged sidewalks. However, our rapid delivery branch, the one I was talking about earlier, with their short programs, one of them addresses sidewalks. And we do repair through that program some of them if, again, they are part of any of these three scenarios. Where, let's say, the Mayor's Office for People with Disabilities has been in communications with that neighborhood and there is a clearly accessibility problem for a sidewalk that is damaged or missing. Maybe there are sections that are missing on that sidewalk. If we get that feedback from the Mayor's Office for People with Disabilities, that might be one of the qualifying factors for us to assign funding and repair the sidewalk. The same thing if it's school related, we can address those. And also on major thoroughfares when there is not currently any sidewalk, and again, there is accessibility and mobility issues. So again, just clarifying, even if the ordinance might say clear, we don't just make the repairs. There are cases where, again, we need to serve our community, and if there are accessibility and mobility issues, we're happy to evaluate through that program. Next. 311 So I had this slide for you because I know most of the topics, and Ms. Kilgore, you communicated that to me about the interest of getting a little deeper into drainage. And we have been talking for some time about some of the cases, so I have this to show you and also some updates on those. So talking about this, the Super Neighborhood 14 drainage initiatives, some of you might be aware. If not, I want to let you know that this area has been in the radar of the city for some time. Unfortunately, capital improvement projects have not moved forward past few years. However, we went ahead and initiated last year study on the entire Timber Grove area to identify any stormwater and drainage improvements that are needed. This is just a screenshot of some of the preliminary reports that we have. Not to get into the technical details, but this image, for example, shows some of the ponding that is typically seen when we have 100-year storms, which, for those that don't know what that is, are those type of storms that have a 1% probability of happening a year. So it's serious. You can see some of the areas here have pretty amount of ponding. And the good news is that we did get the existing conditions analysis last year. It was pretty eye-opening, but it was clear some of the areas, as you're seeing on this image, that have very, very serious problems. This analysis confirmed that the area has a systematic drainage issue that needs to be addressed as a whole. It's very little that we find. We didn't find clear localized problems. And what we're looking forward to, because that was the first step on these studies, of course, you have different phases that you need to go through. The first one was for our consultant to show us what the existing conditions look like. And they are currently working on the proposed conditions analysis. And we expect next month to have some of that initiating. So that second phase for the proposed conditions, that's where it's gonna give the city some proposals and ideas of what alternative projects we're gonna have to review, select one, and identify the funding, whether it's CIP or there are also some grants opportunity that our planning team are keeping an eye on for this particular area. So this is big. This is the most important initiative that is taking place right now. Again, because the first phase of the analysis for the existing conditions show us, again, the systematic problem, not necessarily localized.
So to pause right there and ask questions. So we've been working on this for about 2 years now. And the request is currently that we annex the majority, it's about 540 acres. So what you've highlighted in here is the warehouse district that is being torn down and redeveloped into high density townhomes and apartment complexes and gated communities. And so for that study, are you sharing that potentially with Andy Aiken and Gwen Tillotson to help support the request to annex this area into TERS 12 so that we could get the funding to help develop this area for drainage issues?
I'm not aware of that particular detail about the coordination, but I can surely take note of that and bring it up.
Okay. And we could talk offline about it. I just want to,
Absolutely.
You've already got it. We've already known it just from our driving around and taking pictures, and you know we love to do that. And so I think that this will be a great opportunity to partner with you to move that forward.
Absolutely. And I'll share your comment to our planning team. They're the ones that are directly coordinating.
I love it.
Yeah, I mean, we are very involved on, at least my team and I are involved on the feedback based on our experience operations-wise and maintenance-wise. Now the funding and coordination on the stage, our planning section is taking care of that, but I'll be happy definitely to talk to them and bring that point up.
Okay, perfect.
One of the things, yes, that we have seen here is that you are correct. Some of those areas are being redeveloped. That's a big, big factor to consider, and our consultant is being made aware of that we need to evaluate based on the those type of projections, because that's going to change everything, or a lot of study.
Can I ask who your consultant is?
Uh,
Know the name?
Jesus, I don't have that handy with me. I know.
You don't need to, we'll talk later.
I'll give you
don't-
that information.
Yeah, we'll talk. Okay,
I'll share that with you.
cool. That's exciting.
Yes, I know. And I've been asking about it too, trust me. Our group is on the front line. We hear from you. And our constituents are very eager to get some of these things resolved, because as I was sharing you the way operations work, there are many of these areas where we have got our threshold of we already did everything we can maintenance wise. I mean, continue investing into trying to fix something that is systematic. It's not really cost efficient. So I'm excited too, but I've even in preparation for this meeting and before, I've been checking our planning, where are we? And they give me the good news that they expect this second phase in November.
That's great. Okay.
Also, I wanted to share with you too that remember when I talked about the local drainage project that are mainly to support our maintenance crew and do a little more hard extended scope of rehabilitation / maintenance. We do have some initiatives going on here. I know Ms. Gilbert, you and Mr. and I'm sorry if the name just escaped my mind. I think it's Mark.
Oh, Spildner?
Yes, I think you brought up some of the issues. I just wanted to share with everybody as an example, severe ponding and water draining into one of the properties adjacent to Turkey Gully ditch on Wynwood Lane. And that's one of the examples that when you brought that up, our maintenance crews look into it. They work on some of basic maintenance for about a month, but we identified that this is a perfect application for a local drainage project. So we're gonna have some good scope for you, where we're gonna reestablish some of the gutter line proper elevation, probably reduce some of the sidewalk and channelize the water properly to an existing inlet. So it's just an example of those things that our maintenance crews cannot just do on a daily basis, but we're using some of the funding to take care of that matter. So I ran out of time today, but I meant to send you and your customer, the resident, information about that.
Okay, perfect.
And also just sharing with you again about the storm sewer dish maintenance to please, if you'll have any concerns or issues, I will share them via 301. Again, my name is out there, so I'm happy to take any of your comments. It's easier also though, I really like to log everything that you'll ask for through our 301 system, because that way you can have a way to track our progress and for us again to make ourselves accountable that these investigations take place within the timeline given. And I shared with you earlier about how we have of course a big load responding to complaints or 301 concerns, but we also have a very strong proactive approach where we do inspections, maintenance, and repairs of our infrastructure throughout the year. Next. So Ms. Kilgore, you asked me, and I remember you mentioned on your invitation about wanted to share with you in the meeting, how can you all get more involved, how we can cooperate closer, our department with you. And I listed some of the main things that are very helpful from your side, and I don't want to sound repetitive about it, but again, the 301 helpline is one of the major things that if you whether use the app or make a call, when you have a concern or you want to report an issue, even if you're not sure if it's something that can be taken care of or who does, 301 will find, based on the description that you give, the way to get that to us. But I want to emphasize that the more description you give us, if you can send attached emails, pictures, that's very useful for us. I love those requests that come in with a lot of information. Yeah, we don't mind reading it and going through it, because that tells the story. Sometimes for us just to walk into a street and look, things might look okay to us, or things we might see a different problem. So when you report these cases, please give us as much information as you can. That's very helpful for us. And also to be sure it gets routed to the right people. You know, you don't want traffic people getting drainage stuff and vice versa. So again, the details and the description helps. Next one. And of course, being in stormwater, I'm gonna be leaning strongly about things that the community can help us with to take care of our drainage infrastructure. And these are some tips that I wanted to share with you. Maintain your roadside ditches if you happen to have one in front of your property or in your neighborhood. It's important that they keep open, free of clippings, leaves, limbs, any garden debris. And again, when we have dry, very sunny, pretty days, might not matter. But the day the storm comes, those ditches are critical to support our city and the safety and maintain the water out of the properties, which is the most important goal for all of us. Also, don't misuse your open ditch or if you have a swale either. Unfortunately, there are a lot of neighborhoods that use the ditches to park vehicles. And what does apart from obstructing, of course, the opportunity to have water flowing, it compacts the soil. And that's, as you know, we have a lot of clay in Houston, and that doesn't really help. So when you compact the soil, the ditches cannot absorb, the water cannot infiltrate properly. And that's a huge issue because then you're gonna have more flow running down the streets too. So it's important to preserve the ditches, value them as a good asset. I ran out of time, but I was gonna share with you some of the pictures of how ditches can be actually beautifully landscape without, again, obstructing or damaging their functionality. Also, my third tip is let the stormwater pump. We get very many calls after a storm or rain of people reporting there's water on the ditch. Well, the ditch is doing its job. So we typically average, we ask the community to give it about 24 to 36 hours for the water to start actually draining. Because when you see the water under that period, it's actually, again, the ditch is doing its job. That is to convey the water, transport it to an inlet or to another channel, allow time for the water to infiltrate too. So again, give that period of time. Just for FYI, that's typically in Houston what we see as a properly functioning ditch. And also keep an eye on your neighborhood storm drains. Sometimes you might have roadside ditches, you might have enclosed systems, you might have both. But if you have on your storm drains, be sure also that they are clear of debris, no leaves, no clippings, street trash, animal waste, absolutely. None of those things should be getting in the water. We have to remember that any of those can end up on our water supply, or we might be contaminated in some natural channels that are very critical for our environment. So protecting those storm drains is very, very important. Next. This is related with the storm drains too. Let's sweep the debris out. We know a lot of community that uses a hose to wash it out, but unfortunately that's really not a good method, because when you are using a hose, you're actually washing out some of the pollutants that are in the pavement. The pavement is the surface that collects the most, including oil and components from the vehicles that drive through continuously. So when you use a hose, you're actually washing all of those into your drain, and that's not a good thing. Also, I want to encourage you, some of you, if you would like or don't know about the program, we have a Adopt a Drain program that is really, really interesting. We have a map where you can see a dot in every of the inlets that we have throughout the city. We launched this program a few years ago where people can go in, select one of those inlets next to your property or anywhere, and you can take ownership of it. So it's a commitment of an individual or a family of a community to help us keep an eye on that drain and be sure again that it's clear continuously in preparation for storms or drains. So check it out. If you Google City of Houston Adopt a Drain program, you'll see that link coming up, and I'll be happy to share with you if you want later. My next tip had to do a lot with the first one. I was talking about the hose, but also let's be sure that we never pour household chemicals, pesticides, oil, auto-care products, paint on the drainage system. We have to remember again that some of those might end up on your water supply. So be sure you look at the waste guidelines for your neighborhood. and let's take care of this water. It's one of our most important resources. When you landscape your property, this is important. Doesn't happen often, but once in a while, some property owners do that. And the idea is to never really try to change the grading of slopes that drain into channels, waterways, or lakes. Don't try to start creating on your own swales or ditches, trying to be proactive. Contact us if there is a drainage issue. And the reason why is because the grading in some, on our streets actually have to do with particular design requirements to ensure that we have water quantity and water quality criteria. So again, don't take it on your own to try to change all those slopes on drainage infrastructure. And my last and most important tip, let's all protect our city green spaces. It is amazing what they can do for us. Trees, I would love to share some of the numbers, but trees actually can capture a lot of the rain volumes that we have, and with the increased rainfall intensity in Houston and in many areas in the country and in the world in general, we need to protect our green spaces because they do help us with water infiltrating, with trees capturing some of that rain. So it's very important that we promote planting trees and taking care of those that are already existing. I think that's my last slide. Yes. So again, thank you so much for inviting me. I was happy to share the information. If you have any question, if I have the answer, I'll be happy to give it. If not, I'll take note and I'll get back with you for sure.
Open it up to questions. If y'all want to unmute yourself and ask questions, we can do a few questions. And then what I'd also like to do is share our 11th Street photos with you about Tropical Storm Beta. So we'll talk about that as well. But any questions right now?
I'm going to get to 11th Street.
This is Tracy Lee.
Hi, Tracy.
And hey, Johana, thank you for being here. I kind of just want to share a war story from you, from something I experienced that maybe is something you're familiar with or not. In our neighborhood, Wynwood had a, I guess you call it like a layover, perhaps, resurfacing maybe. And one of the things that came up is because it's near a school, it had crosswalks. And so because the equipment that the heavy machinery that it takes to do those layovers, you know, you see it all over town where you have blacktop that shows up on the feeder roads and freeways. And I think that's just the cost of doing business, of, you know, the end result, it's a nice street that's newly laid over. What we realized in that job was that the way that crosswalks are put down with the reflective coating, when that heavy machinery goes over it, it breaks up the entire crosswalk. And one of the things that came up also is the overlay was done on a street that had speed humps. And so when we called 311 and reached out to the contractor, I want to say it was like Angel Brothers or whomever it was at the time, the feedback that they shared was, oh, sorry, in the initial bid, speed humps weren't included. We just redid the overlay. And sorry, there was no cost to redo the crosswalks either. That's kind of what happens. So after some fussing and fighting, eventually the city did come back and redo the speed humps, which just seemed like, okay, obviously it was an oversight in the bid process. But again, just feedback for you and your team in regard to that traffic management. Keep that in mind when we're doing those bids. And then also, again, just noting that if you are in an area where crosswalks exist, you know, we're still dealing with, you know, my kids walk to school every day and ride bikes, and our crosswalks are an absolute mess because the contractor just, you know, I took pictures, there was no ownership. So just wanted to mention that out loud, thinking if you are within a school zone, knowing that that heavy equipment will ruin the crosswalks, it's something that we have to either include in the bid or know just from good best practices to keep the area better than we found it, perhaps. And so while I'll go ahead and, you know, we won't stop submitting it. It's just one of those things that falls off the radar, you get tired. But again, for your team and maybe junior people who are creating those bids and reaching out to contractors, knowing that heavy machinery, our students need the best support they can get. These are our schools in our area. We would hope that they would treat them with dignity and respect, just like they would every other area.
Absolutely.
Thanks for hearing my feedback.
No problem. Thank you for that comment. You read my mind. You know, I was sharing with you that I managed some of the traffic groups for a very long time. And that has helped me a lot now that we're working very close with the street maintenance. And when I remember at the time, because I was used to getting traffic, all those calls, hey, we had this project and we forgot the markings. Can you go and send your crew? My one crew for the entire city. So that was a problem. And, you know, I completely sympathize with that. And that's one of those things that we have got better at. We made a big push when this became an ongoing issue. I'm pretty sure if there is any other contract that leaves those behind, please let me know. Whether we'll share my email or you want to report directly to 311, we'll take care of that, because that's absolutely inexcusable. If you have heard also, the mayor has a new street pavement rehabilitation program. They're going to be very extensive with that for years to come. And this is the first year. And I remember my first question, tell me you included markings under those contracts. And yes, they did. So there are going to be components, including markings and drainage, that are going to be addressed while they go through those streets. But thank you for sharing. And please feel free, if you see that circumstance any other time, let us know or report to 311 and we'll take care of it.
Thank you.
So just to follow up on that, is that something that should go to Walter Hambrick or to you in terms of an email?
Either or. Again, if you want to send it to either or, I mean, for a street rehabilitation, he's overseeing that program directly. So yeah, if you can send it to him, that's fine.
Tracy, I have both sets of contacts, so I'll forward that to you. And
Okay.
Ms.
I will reach out, because I think as we enter in these COVID times, especially in our schools, you know, we want them to be shining stars at the same time. 311 in this situation actually sent I just did some digging on the RFP and found the contractor, and rather than go to you guys, I felt like the accountability lied with the contractor, and it was so easy for them to be like, nah, that wasn't in my bid. I'm like, wow.
They're not gonna go by whatever we give them. They're not gonna spend one extra penny unless we tell them.
Right.
So no, communicate to us, because in that case, we would like to address it directly with the city project manager, so he can add that bid item. Or like I was sharing with you in the past, many times we had to use our own crews to go back and do the installation if there was no more funding available. But again, that's one of the issues that has been brought up for many years. And I've seen contracts being delivered in a more diligent way, where it's not just about overlays, about everything that was there before is supposed to be put back the same or in better condition. So
Good. I'm glad it's on the radar. Thank you.
thank you for sharing.
In the interest of time, I'd like to go ahead and run through the photos. I think you can still see those on the screen from Tropical Storm Beta. And for those of you who haven't seen it, so these photos were taken by a photographer in the neighborhood. This is the intersection at 12th and Seamist. So you're standing on Seamist looking towards
11th,
yes. And this is also Seamist going in this direction and 12th Street going in this direction. So this side of the street is actually draining in the direction towards Ella. And underneath that section is where this drainage just is blocked. It's not making it underneath the street to this open ditch culvert. And this is the same kind of the opposite side. So if you were to take your camera and move to the opposite side, this is 12th Street looking towards Hempstead. So what we have in this corner over here was a GE Electric warehouse. And I do not know how many acres it is. However, the entire, from here, about 2/3 of the street is now been demolished. It's going to be some form of
multifamily apartments.
And so in addition to, we already have a problem here at this intersection. You can see from the wake that the pickup truck kind of is giving us just slowly crawling through that intersection. We definitely have a problem. And then this is, if you are over here on this side of the street. So this is an open ditch in some parts of the street, but a closed ditch in another. And we're just not seeing the area being able to get drained well enough. This is stepping back, looking from 11th Street back here, looking towards 18th Street. So you can see the ponding that is happening, that this is just not draining from this side across the street towards 12th, towards Ella. And then this intersection is, this street right here is Maxroy, and this is 11th, and this is the Shill factory. And that factory is for sale. I've heard a rumor that it's actually going to be demolished and may be in the process of being demolished now, which is sad because that's another, it is approximately 10 acres that is going to be probably apartments or high density development. But again, open ditch, no drainage. And then here we go a little bit further back on 11th Street. And then here we're looking on 11th towards TC Jester and White Oak Bayou. So this is how it is draining to White Oak Bayou. This entire sheet flow is coming from 18th Street at the corner of Hempstead and 610 down towards this area of town. And the poor little neighborhood that is back behind here, Timber Grove Section 5, is just getting hammered. So we are excited to meet with you tonight, Ms. Clark, to be able to talk about what do we do? What are our next steps? We've been looking at this for about 2 years, as you know. There is a drainage study that's been done. We know that there's problems, but how do we as an organized group of residents kind of move this project forward? We know we need to find funding. I think, in my humble opinion, that annexation with TERS number 12 will help because it's going to generate a lot of money to be able to do nothing but infrastructure for drainage, for streets. This area is rapidly redeveloping, approximately 500 acres. And so we're excited to work with you.
Absolutely, and I appreciate when you send us these pictures. When I tell you about, give me details, this tells the story. And I've been reviewing some of the first phase for the existing conditions on that study, and this is consistently matching what that report is showing us. I mean, I even had ready with me a couple of the streets where the severe ponding is clearly, and this is just model data based on the elevations. You see some of the roadways that are significantly above the property lines. That's a big issue. Many of them don't have any infrastructure at all, or some others are definitely under capacity. And those are the main issues that I saw in the report, and were based on, again, maintenance experience on the area, and your pictures confirm that those are the main problems. I mean, where I had Southwood Drive, Lockford, Semest, absolutely. 12th Street, for example, has roadside ditches that are actually draining water from over 80 acres of land. So the system that is on this entire area is not designed for the amount of water that is currently draining from their contributors. So that's a big problem. And I understand what you mean. Something else that I wanted to mention, one of the things that our consultant is looking at is the issue that we have with the railroad tracks on Hempstead. That's one of the big limitations we have.
Yes.
Because the only way really to have that drain, and there's already a 36-inch culvert, but we need to connect that and extend that to provide better capacity. So I'm confident that this project is going to move forward. I don't want you to lose faith. I know it has taken a lot of time, but once we get the proposals, the plan is to determine which of the alternatives that are presented is the most effective, technically speaking, and also cost efficient. And we move forward to identify the funding. And I'm confident. I'm not in that planning position to promise you the funding will be immediately available. But right now, there are a lot of grant opportunities out there for recovery and for some of the mitigation programs that the feds and the state have available. And planning has, again, an eye on those. And this is one of the projects that is top of the list. So I don't expect really to see a extended delay on a project coming up.
I'd like to speak about the 11th and CMIS issue. That at corner on the north west side is not owned by anybody. It's in La La Land. The city owns part of it, the railroad owns on, and it is a massive mess at all times. Weeds grow anywhere from 4 to 5 feet. People dump garbage there. They dump dirt there. And that backs up the drainage that goes all the way, because our water flows down towards 11th. So I live at 12th and Seamus. That is where I live. And that is water is being backed up all the way from 11th and Seamus. And I have talked to 311, Jack's been helping me. We cannot get those ditches cleared out. They consistently are full with garbage and weeds. And it's very frustrating because I've talked to the railroad, I've gone to their head, I've talked to people, they say that's not their responsibility because there's railroad crossing right there and railroad tracks as well.
Yeah, they don't maintain those. That's one of the things that we step up and take care of those, although you will expect that that's part of their responsibility.
But I don't know who owns that corner. That's what I want to know, is who is responsible for that corner between the Sullivan homes that are being built and Seamist.
That's something I can definitely check into. What I was gonna, and I'm glad you brought that up, because Ms. Kilgore, those pictures that you sent me and they have the locations there is very useful. So what we started discussing actually today with our maintenance crews, we're gonna start going through each of those to see which ones have any opportunity for us to do any maintenance right now. So even if I know we're talking about this study and the project coming up, that doesn't mean that we are not doing maintenance or we're not open to clear any ditches or maintain any underground system that needs immediate repair. So my plan is, and I've already initiated, we're taking the locations that you put there on your pictures, and that includes Miss Avedon, the 11th Street and Simmons Corner. We're gonna be looking into those and evaluating and see what we can do. And if the issue is that the dish needs maintenance and needs to be desilted and clear, we will do it.
It's a mess.
No problem. I have the list of the files, and I'll be happy to give you an update once we have a plan already scheduled.
Okay, and so we are almost out of time, but I did want to share on the agenda that I sent out, you can see both Jack's contact information and Ms. Clark's contact information. So very helpful. We do have, if you have any questions that you want to ask after this meeting, you can email us at houstonsnl@gmail.com and look at our website. Bruce Avedon is the person that maintains our website, and so we have all of this information posted there as well. So if we don't have any other questions or anything that you'd like to discuss, I appreciate all of you joining our meeting tonight. It's helpful to have more eyes in the neighborhood to know what's going on, and we appreciate your time tonight. It was a long meeting, and we appreciate you staying and talking to us, Ms. Clark. It's important, I think, for us to get to know who the leaders are in the Public Works Department so that we can have an open dialogue about the issues that we're having rather than just continuing to go through 311. So thank you so much for joining us tonight.
No problem. Thanks for inviting me.
Thank you. Thank you all. Have a good night.
Good night.
Bye.